We're going to put an OEM style thermostat housing on our 300. We'll put a little RTV on the gasket, and since these are through holes, you're going to want to seal the bolts that go into the head. Nothing like recycling old parts. Whoa, cool. You're really radiating off some good vibes.
Well, there's actually more room there than I thought. Looks like the radiator hoses aren't going to be too bad.
Nah.
Probably piece those together pretty easily. I think now's the time where I need to step in here and...
Yeah, if you need some room to kind of work around and get the intercooler in, I'll also do some other stuff.
Yeah, I'll do the cold side, and I'll just figure out what we're going to do about a downpipe or something.
And if you want me to make that decision,
I'll let you.
Yeah.
All right, let me get the cold side done.
All right.
Well, we've got this air-to-air intercooler that we've got from Summit Racing that we're going to use here. This is actually pretty small, but not small enough to fit in between the radiator and radiator support here. And even if we did have one that would fit down inside of there, the problem would be cutting holes through the radiator support, which we don't want to do to get the plumbing run. We could also mount it down here in front of the grill, which is not ideal because, well, it looks kind of silly. And then also, if we were going to route the hoses, we're either going to have to cut through the grill or run them in a hilarious manner, which we don't want to do that either. So what I think we're going to do, because there's a lot of room between the top of the valve cover and the hood, I think I can just mount it this way above the upper radiator hose, figure out how we're going to mount that, and then we can plumb into it here with like a 180, and then we come right out and head toward the throttle body injection, which we're going to install here shortly. So I'm going to figure out what we're going to do about brackets for this and get this thing mounted. Well, here's what I figured out for this is, got these little L brackets that I'm going to bolt to the mounting points here on the intercooler that are existing. The reason I'm going to do this is we need something heavy duty to support the weight of this intercooler, although it's aluminum and it's relatively small, it's still pretty heavy. And since we're going to be mounting it horizontally instead of vertically the way they normally are, we need something that'll support the weight. So we're going to start with this. And then it needs to be kind of in this area here. So in order to mount it to the radiator here, you can't just put bolts or screws right through the top of the radiator. Actually went down to Engine Power, and Pat made these little standoffs here that have 5/16 holes already tapped in them here. This is super handy because I can take these pieces of aluminum and TIG weld those to the radiator tank there. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and bolt these in and figure out where it needs to go and then mark them, and then I'll go ahead and weld those standoffs to the radiator. We can get this thing mounted. All right, so this is about where it's going to end up here. I'm going to get it pretty close to even with the outlet of the turbo housing.